spend 2 days on dirt, and again, the reason we're spending 2 days on dirt is because it's that important. It's going to help you guys make up any mistakes that you're making. So new people, you might not know enough of the demo. You might not have it all down. Dirt will cover you on that mistake. Okay, old people, you might know the entire demo, but your demo slips over time if you don't stay on it, which is very natural. That's why I always tell managers and stuff like that they should use check sheets every so often, even on an older dealer. Because I mean, like, we got some dealers in here that sell a lot of Kirby's, but if I showed up to your house and I showed up to close your deal with a check sheet, you would probably be mortified as I started to check these things off, because you would start to realize, oh my gosh, I've been skipping this, I've been skipping that, and all that stuff. But even in that event, guys, dirt allows you to still sell those customers. Does that make sense? Okay. You may be going through a rough time. You may be slumping a little bit. Okay, when you slump, you double it. You double your enthusiasm, you double your fun, and you double your dirt. Does that make sense? Dirt will save you from everything. Okay, because there's something called a DTL, right? DTL. What's that stand for?
Dirt tolerance level.
Right. Dirt tolerance level. Now what that is that's the point where customers, they go from, oh wow, this is kind of cool, excuse me, to wow, this is an actual issue in here. You know what I mean? Okay. Now the best way to get to a dirt tolerance level is to, give me 1 second. Wow. Okay. The best way to get to a dirt tolerance level, okay, is to first of all spread your pads. Because if you're gonna pull the dirt, you might as well get the psychological effect of the dirt. You want your customers to understand this isn't casual, this is a situation that needs to be dealt with, right? Okay, so you definitely want to spread the pads. The act of pulling 100 pads, okay, I'm gonna repeat this now, listen. The act of pulling 100 pads does not sell a customer. If you pull 100 pads and you stack them in the same spot, literally, it's going to be about the effect of 20 pads to the customer, okay? It's not the act. It's when you take 100 pads and you spread them all over the place. So when you're looking at dirt, okay, dirt pads should not overlap each other because you're using less space. You're taking up less mass. Does that make sense? The reason 100 pads, guys, is the number is because on average, 100 pads, well, can you shut the door, please? On average, 100 pads will literally cover most living room floors, most TV room floors, right? That's why we pull 100 pads, guys, okay? And so we don't want to do this. We definitely don't want to do this, okay? We really want to do this. Okay, we can even space them a little if we have to, okay? But we don't want to be like, because you're going to lose the effect. Does that make sense? Okay, so whenever you say 100 pads, it should always have what behind it?
Spread.
Spread. Word spread. So you guys are all going to be distributors someday. That's what we're here for, right? So get used to saying 100 pads, spread. Absolutely. Because that makes the difference, okay? All right, now, let's talk about how dirt works. So the first 0 to 40 pads is the, I knew it was there here. It's the, I knew it was there here. Okay? This is when the customer wants to say to you and give you the reasons the dirt's there. I don't know why. I mean, I guess we probably do this in other things in life, but for some reason, I think we feel that if we can identify why it's there, that somehow it lessens the blow of it being there. Does that make sense? Okay? So I'm sure this has happened to all of us. We start pulling a couple pads, and the gentleman or lady in the house says, oh, you know what? It's those dogs. I've been telling my husband, those dogs bring in all that dirt. Right? Or they'll say things like, look, our neighborhood's not done with construction. They bring these heavy trucks by. There's dust everywhere. They're building across the street still. Okay, for our neighbors that are brand new, right? Okay? Or there's a farm field, or my kids play sports, or I don't vacuum enough. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that they're identifying why it's there. So it's the I knew it was there here. Okay? All right. Now, 40 to 80 is the what? Transition dirt. That's right. It's a transition dirt. So once you get past 40 pads, guys, what happens is the customer, okay, it starts to become too much to excuse almost. Does that make sense? Okay. But a lot of times the customers will still hold on to that because you haven't covered it. Okay, so they'll be like, I mean, you know, you're on pad 51 and they're going like this, yeah? Man, we shouldn't have those dogs. Right? They're still saying the thing, okay? That's a transition dirt. Now, let me tell you something about the transition dirt, okay? It's the most messed up dealer category in Kirby, okay? And it gets messed up both ways. Number one, sometimes customers break. So you have a customer who's like, listen, we're not buying anything, and blah, 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 and they're very rough at the beginning. And then all of a sudden you start to get enough dirt on the floor, and they start saying something simple like, well, you know, Kirby is a good machine. They're starting to transition. You might have got in the home and said, hey, what do you guys know about Kirby? And they're like, nothing, I don't know anything about it. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, this same guy starts to go, you know what, we had one of those growing up. It's been 20 minutes. Right? It's been 20 minutes, right? And it's like, you know, it's just because at first they didn't want to mess with you, so they weren't going to give you all their good information. Make sense? But now they're starting to transition. Okay? They start to say things like, hey, do these things, do you have to pay them outright, or how does this work? Okay, hey, I'm just curious, but when a customer's ever asking about the price, you realize over 90% of the time, there is about 10% that are truly just curious, but 90% of customers asking about the price aren't just curious. They're asking because they're curious because they're thinking about buying the Kirby. Does that make sense? So they start to transition. And guess what the salesperson does? They go, oh my gosh, I got a sale. I got a sale. And then they start saying things like, you know, because we hear this, you know, when the temperature's high, ask to buy. But ask to buy, guys, I love that statement, but in a way I don't like that statement, only because I think dealers get it mixed up, okay? You can get a commitment at this point for them to buy the Kirby, but that doesn't mean that you stop the show and try to sell it. Because these customers, listen, if they have a $700 Dyson, right, a $500 Shark, they might be ready to buy at $800. Because what you've shown them so far is about a $300 value above what they already own. So if you shut that show down and go for it, okay, it doesn't work that way. You can listen, if you're gonna ask full price for the product, I want you to remember this. Sometimes we get jaded and we get used to things, right? They say, what is it? Familiarity breeds contempt sometimes. And like, you're like, man, I'm not gonna do the mattress, I'm not gonna do all that stuff. I just go in there and sell it. Guys, first of all, that's the beginning of the end of your career, just so you know, okay? Or it's the beginning of your long dealer career. Do you know what long dealer career is? Somebody with 40 months of 15 who's still in the office and has no intention of leaving. Now, some people come into Kirby and they're good like that. But really, most long dealers didn't start that way. They just got that way from bad habits. Does that make sense? Okay. So, when you can't just be like, I just sell it or whatever like that. That's not the way it goes. Okay? You have to do the entire show. All right? Now you can ask to buy it when it's hot. If someone goes, well, hey, how much are those things? Right? Okay? And there's a whole debate in Kirby whether price should be shown up front or price should be shown at the end. And I would just say, of course, because we're taping this, I would say that you do what your office feels comfortable with. Does that make sense? You do what's in your culture, okay? But let's say that they say, you know, well, you know, how much are these things? You know, do you guys take payments? Well, hey, Mr. Jones, if it was affordable, could we earn your business today? Yeah, absolutely, okay? Well, let me ask you a question. With looking at something like this, okay, knowing that it lasts 45 years and it's USA made, okay, what would you be comfortable putting down? Or would you have to put it down? Or would you, write a check or credit card, or would you probably do a payment plan, okay? Well, depends what they cost. Depends what they cost, Johnny, right? I understand that, okay? I get it, but you know what they don't cost? Okay, they don't cost as much as that Dyson. They're going to be more than that, I promise. Right? So just put that with your first little hint of the price, right? What can you put down? Does that mean just start teasing them a little bit? Have fun, but don't close that deal. You don't even have to go that way sometimes. That might be a little bit too advanced for you. You might just say something like, well, hey, if it was affordable, Caleb, would you get one today? Yeah, boom, okay, that's fine. Guys, at this point in the show, if you're doing the show right, okay, you should be on the attachments. Does that make sense? You're like not even to the mattress yet, barely. Follow me? Yeah. Okay? So don't be so concerned about trying to be super salesperson and close that deal. You don't look any cooler if you say, I sold it at the mattress or I sold it after the price sheet. Right? Because I'd rather you sell it at the price sheet, or the T-close or whatever you're doing. I'd rather you sell it there for full price than beat your chest and take a bunch of money off because you had a customer who wasn't quite ready yet. Does that make sense? Okay. So a lot of people try to jump on the sale here, and it hurts their volume as far as how many they sell. It also hurts their selling price because it's kind of tough to ask for the full thing when you've only showed 1/3 of it. True? Okay. And some of them, like I said, they just miss them sometimes too for that. Now the other way they mess up is this. Customers can transition the other way. They can be really fun and nice, and then all of a sudden this is starting to make sense to them. They were like, yeah, let the guy come in, blah, blah, blah. And they look over, and at first it was kind of, they were looking at their wife, and they were smiling, like, all right, we'll do this. And then all of a sudden he looks over at the wife, and now she's like this. And he knows what this means. She's paying attention. All right? And she's looking at him, and she's going, when my wife starts doing this to me, she starts shaking her head like, yep, that's good. I'm in my mind, I'm going. But she starts bobbing that Haitian head of hers, and she starts doing her little hands like that while she's talking. That's a good point. I'm like, oh no. I already know where this is going. Okay, I can put up a fight if I want, or I could be the hero, but either way, that product's about to hit this house, I promise you. Does that make sense? Okay, and if I say no, she'll just buy it anyway. So, I just try to throw on the cape and act like it was a great idea, right? You know what I mean? And then she says things like, oh, you're so sweet, thanks for buying that. And I think to myself, as if I had a choice, right? Okay, so some husbands or wives, they start to get aggressive at this point. Because they're really nice, and all of a sudden they're like, hey, listen, Myron, I told you we're not buying anything. Out of nowhere. Okay? And so a new salesman will be like, oh, wow, oh, man, they said it at the beginning, and it was going really well, and now they just said it again kind of mean. And I mean, man, I better just kind of speed this along. I don't want to offend anybody. Right? Guys, all they're doing is they're just bursting out because they're processing it in their mind. They might say something like this too. Listen, I told you at the beginning I wasn't going to buy one, and when I say something, I mean it, right? And all you have to say is, you know what, sir? When you said it, I knew you meant it, and I believed you. Okay? All right, but let me ask you a question. If you had information that somebody didn't know, okay, and you were there to tell them that information, okay, and it was important, okay, wouldn't you want them to listen to it before they decided? Well, yeah, of course. Okay, well, that's all we're talking about. It's no big deal. You said no at the beginning, you meant it. But you know what you didn't know? You didn't know it had an air compressor. You didn't know it had a hand shampooer. You didn't know that you could, do your steps so easily. You didn't know half the stuff we already know. So new information, it's okay to make a new decision. Do you want to know something? Almost every really good buyer I ever have, the ones that are really sharp with their money, almost all of them say no right away. And we do that naturally, don't we, Mr. Jones? You know you're going to the store for a shirt, right, Caleb? You know 100%, okay? You're there to buy a shirt. You walk through the store, okay? You walk in, the salesman says, can I help you? And what do we say? No. See, the whole group just said, no, just looking. Because you want to look at the information, decipher it, and you'll pull that salesman in then if you need their help. Does that make sense? So all that told me about you is that you're a smart buyer. Because right off the bat, you were like, no, you pushed me away. Let me watch this with no pressure, no nothing, which I haven't given you, right? Okay? And you're looking at it, and then if you want to buy it, you'll pull me back in, right? We're in the same exact boat when we started. Does that make sense? Yeah. Remember at the beginning when I told you I didn't carry either way? I promise you I still don't carry either way. Is that fair? Boom, and just continue with the show. Does that make sense, guys? Don't shut that stuff down because they're getting weird. And they'll also say something like this. Well, listen, those things are expensive. Right? Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, they're saying that because in their mind, they're like, I want to buy this, but it's expensive. Right? Caleb, tell me it's expensive.
It's expensive.
Absolutely, especially if you buy two. Those things will wreck finances at two, you know what I'm saying? Listen, of course they're expensive, but we didn't talk about that, didn't we? If you want to last 45 years, and if you want it to be American made, okay? And if you want to have the choices it gives you, 12 machines, 97 uses, right? Okay? It's going to have to be a little bit more, true?
True.
Okay. So, and you'd rather have that choice than not, true?
True.
So I know it sounds crazy, but you just told me that you're happy it's expensive. Because without it being expensive, the choice wouldn't be there, true?
True.
And you'd be stuck with this with no option, when obviously that's not the type of house we're running, right?
No.
Whether you get it today or not, this Hoover is not the type of house we meant to run, right?
Right.
Okay. So that's all it is, no big deal. You know what I mean? At the end, if you can get it, you can get it. If not, no problem. Fair enough? Okay, cool. And then just move through it. Does that make sense, guys? No big deal. But the point is, move through it. Okay? Because they're transitioning. Another one here is, well, my aunt had one, and the last guy was rude to her. Okay? And it's very simple. Hey, Brandy, let me ask you a question. You said that your aunt they were rude to your aunt, true?
Yes.
Would you consider yourself a positive person in general?
Yes.
Yeah, you seem like you are. So if the glass is it half empty or half full?
Exactly.
It's half full, right? So if you've had one bad experience, which you weren't even really involved in, but one good experience you were involved in, and you're a positive person, which one should you gravitate towards?
Good.
Okay. Is that me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. You can still buy it, even though your aunt had a bad experience. That had nothing to do with that. Does that make sense? All right, fair enough. And then we move through it. Okay? But you guys need to learn these so you can move through these things. Because we have to get them to transition. Okay? Now, the one way that a statement that we can really get them to transition is this. Get your pens out. We're going to write this down. Okay? Now, let's say the customer isn't doing any of that stuff. Because that's about 30% of customers that will either be super happy and try to buy it, or super crazy, maybe 40%, or get kind of standoffish out of nowhere and they're going to make a stand, like last stand type deal, right? But like 60% of the customers are just going to try to stick to that same excuse they told you when you walked in. So this is what you say. You say, today you have given me a few reasons why the dirt is here. Today you've given me a few reasons why the dirt is here. Now watch this. And I absolutely agree. Okay, so today you've given me a few reasons that the dirt is here. And I absolutely agree. Listen, are they going to be more likely to take our information on if we're agreeing with their information? Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if a customer and a salesman ever get combative, who always loses? Every time. So look, and listen, the reasons the dirt's here probably are valid, true? The dog probably is hammering the carpet. The husband probably doesn't take his shoes off. The kids go outside and play, and then they come in. You know how that goes. So it's not that they're not valid reasons, okay? So you're going to say, and I absolutely agree. As a matter of fact, there's probably a dozen more really good reasons we haven't even thought of. So now why am I saying that? Because if they switch the reason later, right? If they switch it later, we've already covered it. Does that make sense? So it goes like this. You know, D'Angelo, today you've given me a lot of really good reasons why the dirt is here. And you want to know something? I absolutely agree. As a matter of fact, there's probably a dozen more we haven't even thought of, right?
Right.
Okay? Now watch. But, we are asking ourselves the wrong question. But we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Okay? Give me a second to catch up. Is everybody caught up? Okay. Give me 1 second. So we'll cover it again. Listen, today you've given me, or you know, if you don't want to say you've given me, okay? Okay, you can say today we discussed and jump in the circle with them. That's even better, really. Sometimes these things switch a little bit, but it's really the same message. Okay? Well, listen, so today we've discussed, or today you've given me a few really good reasons why the dirt is here. Okay? And you know what? I absolutely agree. As a matter of fact, there's probably a dozen more we haven't even discussed, right? Okay? But we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Which just isn't grammatically correct, but this is how I say it now. Not why is this dirt here? And if you want to be grammatically correct, you could say, you know, we should be asking ourselves not why this dirt is here, okay? But why is this dirt still here after everything we have done to prevent it? So today, Mr. Jones, you guys have given me a lot of good reasons why the dirt's here. And you want to absolutely agree. Okay, as a matter of fact, there's probably a dozen or more reasons we haven't come up with, true? But we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Not why is the dirt here, but why is the dirt still here after everything we've done to prevent it? Right? Okay? That's the question we should be asking ourselves. Now, the Kirby is going to make cleaning more fun. It's not going to keep the dirt out. Does that make sense? But it is going to pull it out, because nothing's going to stop the dirt from coming in. Is that true? True. But the Kirby will pull it back out once it's here. Okay? Now, let me tell you why we're saying that. We're saying that simply for this reason. Because somehow, over my 25 years in Kirby, over the course of the years, I've had customers every so often say to me, yeah, but nothing's going to get all the dirt out. And if you're going to be a professional salesperson, a true professional, a true BA, okay, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to always be ahead of the customer. So now that we know that, and maybe 1 out of 8, 1 out of 10 customers says it, but remember, for every 1 customer that says it, 5 are thinking it. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So we might as well cover it. So like we covered the other excuses they may come up with later. That's doing things before they come up, right? Okay. Now we're gonna cover the fact that 1 out of 8 or whatever customers are gonna say, yeah, but nothing's gonna pick up the dirt anyway, Johnny. So let's cover that. We cover that with this. But we're asking ourselves the wrong question. Not why is the dirt here, but why is the dirt still here after everything we've done to prevent it? That's what we really should be asking ourselves. Now the Kirby is not going to stop the dirt from coming in. Nothing can. But it will get it out. And that's what we're really trying to achieve, isn't it? You see how we just prevented that then? Okay, let me erase this. We're going to write that real fast and then make sure you guys have it. So when you guys say this statement, okay, when you guys say this statement, what's going to happen is, really, I can't remember the last time that a customer didn't transition. Does that make sense? The only way you can mess this up is if you're trying to make this statement on 9 pads. Follow me? Right?
Good.
Because then the Kirby is neat. It's a novelty. If they win the lottery someday, they'll buy one. They're at that state of mind. Does that make sense? You can't be at that state of mind. You have to be at that customer state of mind where they're going from, oh, this is cute, this is fun. Yeah, I heard these things are neat. Yeah, I'll help this kid out to, hey, wait a minute. This young lady might really have something here. This is interesting. That's when they'll transition. Does that make sense? So you have to have enough dirt on the floor for that to happen. Okay, so here's the statement. We're going to go like this. Not why is the dirt here, but why is the dirt still here? Right? I'll write this in your notes. That's a question we should be asking ourselves today. Not the question you should be asking yourself, because that kind of puts us apart. Does that make sense? That's the questions we should be asking ourselves today. Got it? So write that down. That's the question we should be asking ourselves today. The Kirby will not stop the dirt from coming in. Nothing can. But it will get it out. And that's what we are really trying to achieve, isn't it? Or right, or whatever you want to use for the deal there. Okay, but guys, also in parentheses, right behind your notes here, okay, say with confidence. This is not a question. Say with confidence in parentheses, okay, guys? This is not a question. It sounds like a question. It's worded like a question, but it's not said like a question. So I can say like this. That's what we're trying to achieve, right? And look like, and they may be like, no, I don't really care. But if I go, and that's not what we're trying to achieve, right? And that's not what we're trying to achieve, is it? And they'll be like, is it? And they'll be like, no. Make sense, guys? Okay. So we're going to run through this one last time with everything. Okay. Hey, listen. Today you've given me a few reasons why the dirt is here. Okay. And you know what? I absolutely agree with you. Okay. As a matter of fact, there's probably a dozen more we haven't discussed, right? But here's the thing. We're asking ourselves the wrong question. Not why is the dirt here, but why is the dirt still here after everything we've done to prevent it? Okay. That's the real question we should be asking. True? And here's the thing, the Kirby is not going to stop the dirt from coming in. Nothing can. But it will get the dirt out. And that's really what we're trying to achieve, right?
Yes.
Right. Boom. That's it. Customer has now transitioned. Does that make sense? Which takes us to 80 to 100. Which is what?
Selling dirt.
The selling dirt. There we go. The selling dirt. This is where the DTL is achieved. Now listen, why is 80 to 100 the number? Guys, listen, in Kirby, nobody in Kirby wants you to do more than you need to do. Okay? But we want you to do 100% of what you need to do. Got it? And the reason it's 80 to 100, really 100, is because it is going to cover, like we discussed, the average living room floor, right? Listen, you knock into those certain homes that have big living rooms, you better understand right away. Okay, you better up your mattress pads by about 10. And we already know the easiest way to up your mattress pads is we know 20 facts. We know 5 things where we're covering stamp. Spouse, think about it, affordability, market, and priority. So we got 20 facts, five ways that we're covering stamp. That's 25, right? And if we already know that we walked into a big living room area, instead of 1 stroke and drop the pad with each fact, we can go to 2 strokes and drop the pad, bump that thing up to 50 pads. Does that make sense? Instead of 25, and we'll still be able to cover the thing in about almost the same time. Because a mattress with 2 strokes, okay, 2 different pads pulled between facts, should only take about another 4 to 6 minutes at the most. Make sense? Just doesn't take that much longer to do it. Usually it would say a pad. But this time you're gonna do it, boom, put another one in, do it, boom, and now say a fact. Got it? And then we can pad 25 there. There's ways to bump your pads to make sure if you're in a really big setting that you can get 100 to 125. And that way, because what are we trying to achieve? Dirt everywhere so the customers understand, hey, this is not a casual situation. This is not something like, oh yeah, that's a novelty if I win the lottery. They want to see all that dirt and go, look, I didn't realize this. Because remember, you're not creating the issue, guys. You're exposing an issue that was already there, okay? And so that issue, whether they know it or not, is going to ruin their padding, is going to destroy their carpet. It's going to be rougher on their electronics. It's going to be rougher on their furniture. It's going to be rougher on the floorings in general. Okay, just because you don't know something doesn't make it any less true, right? Right. So all we're doing is literally bringing it to the surface, right? Okay. So 80 to 100 pads, they get to that point. So in your notes, write DTL, dirt tolerance level. That's where it's achieved. And then 100 to 150, right? Basically 100 plus. That is the value dirt. Now, value dirt can be tricky. And I'm going to tell you why. Right behind this, write the word time sensitive. Time sensitive. And the reason I say that is this. Because if you take 2.5 hours to pull 150 pads, I don't even want you to do it. Because you're going to blow your customers out. Major motion pictures with beautiful people and millions of dollars in special effects only last an hour and a half on average. TV shows last an hour to a half hour on average, right? Okay, with commercials in between. People's attention span, including ours, is only so long. Why do our meetings last an hour or less? Because after that, I start to blow you out. I used to run 2-hour meetings as a young distributor. I used to cover 15 different things. But I would see you guys start to be like, right? And I realized over time, when testing you about those things later, that you only really caught what I told you in the first hour. And after that, you faded out. So that's why our meetings are never longer than an hour. Does that make sense? Okay. It's the same thing. People only have a certain attention span. So your demo is about an hour and a half, the actual demo. The process afterwards could take about a half hour, writing up all that good stuff, right? If they're a little bit older, okay, then you might have to move a little bit slower, things like that, okay? And in general, and I mean by a little bit older guys, I'm not talking about 80-year-olds. Does that make sense? Okay? I'm not talking about stuff like that. I'm talking about someone like my age. I don't move the same pace at 48 as I did when I was 30. Okay? I don't hear as well. Okay? Sometimes you walk into the meeting and I'm like this to make sure who it is. Right? Okay, I don't move as fast. Okay? So, anyway, that demo should take an hour and a half. Okay? It should take an hour and a half. Got it? That's your time frame. So if you can fit those extra pads in there, okay, via the mattress, okay, via side-by-side, a proper filtration test, all these different things, okay, a couple extra pads on an attachment that they really like, okay, that's fine. But don't let that demo go over an hour 45. It really should be an hour and a half. If you can fit that value dirt in there, you'll sell higher on average. Okay? Now look, I'm going to say something that might be a little controversial in the Kirby world, but I don't really care because I don't really care about controversy. Because I teach what I teach. Does that make sense? Okay. I believe that a true salesman is 1/3 high deals, 1/3 medium, 1/3 low. Okay? And I'm going to tell you why. It's not the caliber of your show. It's because we're cutting across American homes and catching them at different moments. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. So there's some houses that could put $500 down on average, but you might happen to get there the day they bought a car. You might happen to get there, you don't realize it, but they purchased a cottage and had to put 20 grand down, and now dad's not comfortable with putting $500 down, $400 down. There's just different things. You might run across them, and the place looks like a great situation from the outside, but dad's passed away, and the house is paid off, but mom's income or dad's income or whatever it is now more limited. Does that make sense? You need to do a full price show every time, but your customers can't necessarily buy it full price every time. Does that make sense? You never do a half price show. I don't care if you think you're in a situation where it's going to be a low ball. First of all, you never know till the end when really the reasons start coming out, really what the deal is, right? I've had people tell me they were out of work. I did the show anyways, and their version was out of work, was really retired. But the guy said out of work because he was trying to stop me from, doing a really full show, a good show. Then I find out that his version of out of work was retired from GM. Okay, that's plenty of income to buy a Kirby if you feel like it, right? Okay, so what I'm saying to you guys is, do the full show, do it every time, run the customer, and you want to know what else you're doing? You're running yourself through this process, okay? If someone like Anna, you're brand new, right? You need to run yourself through this process over and over again to start to understand it. See, because now that you understand these stages, 0 to 40, 40 to 80, 80 to 100, and 100 to 150, you'll actually physically see them happen in the house. And if you know why you're pulling that 100 pads, you're more likely to continue to do it no matter what. Okay? Now you don't have to be on. You don't have to have the show of the century, even though you'll learn how to do that eventually. Okay? The best way to learn how to have the show of the century is 3 things. Number 1, never stop educating yourself. Number 2, never stop practicing. Okay? And meaning, always stay in there all the way from a salesman to an owner. And then the third thing is this: always practice how you play. I never practice the demo. You see me say, not why is the dirt here, but why is the dirt still here? Why do you think I'm doing it up here? Because guess what I do in the house? The same exact thing. Because I know that movement keeps attention. So not why is the dirt here today, but why is the dirt still here today? Does that make sense? Okay? I only practice how I play. Okay? And because of that, okay, you become like that Broadway actor, and they're like, we love you, Detroit. And Detroit's like, whoa! Let's say it's not Broadway, it's at a concert. Guess what, guys? When they're in New Orleans 4 days from now, they're like, we love you, New Orleans. They're like, whoa! And it's just, they're bringing everything to every show the same exact way. Now, some people get cynical and like, oh, that's fake. It's not fake. It's not fake if you're bringing everything you got every show. And that's the only way you practice. I could be asleep and you could wake me up in someone's living room and be like, hey, look, we carried you in here and you didn't know it, and I need you to hit the show. And I wake up, I'm going, all right. And I only know one way to do that show. Does that follow me? Okay. And understanding of dirt leads to that way. Does that make sense, guys? All right, very good. That's your meeting. All right. And you guys are good. You can click that.